everybody to the live stream here. This week we're going to be talking about using the Find My Font tool. This is a great tool that Flexi has added to its repertoire in version 19. So if you have a subscription and you've seen that little Find My Font tool in the bottom right-hand corner of your cloud window, we're going to talk about how we're going to use that tool today and how to get the most out of it, kind of what to do to get to it and everything like that. So be aware that this tool is a free license if you have a subscription with a full subscription with Flexi. So that is one free license to Find My Font per account. So what this allows you to do is download this software for free, and you can install on your PC, and then it's just cloud activated, or it's cloud licensing. So when you first download the software, it'll ask you for your licensing. First thing we want to do is let's jump right into Flexi, and we'll show you where to find it, where to get to it. Then we can kind of show you how to get it installed, and then kind of what information you'll need. So let's jump over to Flexi here. So if you have the Flexi Cloud window, like I said, this is going to be for subscription users. If you have a subscription with us and you pull up this little cloud window, by default, this cloud window does pop up on its own. But if you don't have it turned on, you can go up to the little menu bar up here and click on the cloud page right here, and this will pop up. And down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a download Find My Font. This is a link to click on to download. So when I click on it, you'll actually get this little screen right here, which I'm going to pull over, and then you'll just download the application. Once you download the application and install it, the first thing that you're going to be prompted with is some licensing thing. All you have to do is enter in your cloud account, your email address and your password for your cloud account, and it'll automatically activate the software license. It checks our servers, and that's how you get access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up Find My Font here. When you first launch it, you're going to, I actually have it closed, so I'm going to relaunch it from fresh. So the first time you launch it, you are going to get this little dialog box here. So if you have any questions or need any help or any tutorials, this little getting started tutorial box is actually a really good place to get started. In case you're having some troubles with it or you want a little bit more in-depth videos, we have videos on it. We'll have this video that goes up on YouTube about it. And then, of course, you have got some resources here as well. So you've got lots of resources on how to use this particular tool. For now, I'm going to close that. And let's just talk about the basics of what this is. Well, if you've ever had a graphic or some kind of design that you don't know what the font is, instead of going to a website that tries to interpret the different types of features of the font, or you import a picture and you get it tries to interpret the font, this allows you to take very specific characters from an image, and it will detect the font based on those characteristics all on its own. So if you don't know what that font is, many times if you're trying to reproduce a graphic, maybe vectorizing doesn't come out very well, and the best thing that you can do is get that font. If you can get the font, then it makes that file a lot easier to reproduce if the vectorization is not really working that well. So first of all, let's go to our file menu and let's open up one of our test images here that I've pulled up. We'll pull this one in here. So we've got a sign here that is just a street sign. Someone just took this picture with their camera. You can use this software with a screenshot. So if I go right here and click on Take Screenshot, this will actually take a screenshot of your main display. So if you have something on screen that you want to identify. Say if you find an image on Google or some kind of thing and you like that font and you don't know what it is, this is a really great way to do that too. You can just take a screenshot of your monitor, and then you can pull that image right into the Find My Font tool. So I'm going to zoom in here just using my scroll wheel a little bit, and I want to know what this font is right here that the Crafts shop is using. So by default, it automatically sets itself to the letter selection tool. That's what this little tool with the A+ is over here. So if I click on that tool, I can then choose my letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in the center of the C so that I can highlight it. Now, one of the things you can see here is up at the top, we have a adjust selection or a tolerance setting. So I can reduce or increase the tolerance if I want to. Let's delete that letter and click here. So now you can see that as I zoom in, since the tolerance is set so much lower, some of the grayish areas of the text didn't actually come in. So based on how blurry the image is and what kind of situation you're dealing with, you can adjust this a little bit further. I think I liked it the way it was before. I'm going to hit this pink X to get rid of that letter again. Click on it here. And now this kind of gives me a much fuller example of what this letter is going to be. Now, the other thing I can do here is I can also set multiple letters, and I really don't need a ton of letters to be able to identify this font. I just maybe need 3 or 4. So I'm going to click the R, the A, and maybe the F. And that's really all we need to be able to identify this font. What I typically like to do is grab 2 or 3 different kinds of letters. So maybe one that's uppercase, 1 or 2 uppercase. In this case, we can maybe grab this S. That might be a good one to do. And then try and grab different types of letters. You don't always want to grab the same letters, otherwise that can cause an issue where it doesn't give you an accurate description, because there may be a lot of fonts that use that same type of letter. So I've got a couple letters here, and now down here where it says text to match, I'm going to type in capital C, R, A, F, and then capital S. Once I've done that, I'm going to hit match font. It's going to do a search. While it's doing that search, looks like we had a question come in from Bash Barty. I have a Flexi 19, and in my cloud window, there's no link for Find My Font in the resources area. I do not have a cloud account. Is that why? If you have version 19 of Flexi, if it's the permanent version, there's a perpetual license. You may not have, you won't have access to it. So you want to make sure you have a subscription where you pay the monthly fee every month to get the subscription. So if you have a subscription, it'll show up. If you just have like a Flexi 19 permanent version where you just pay for the software once and you don't get that, then you're not going to be able, you won't see that there. So this is for subscription customers. So if you want this feature, I would highly suggest getting a subscription, or if you do have a subscription and it's still not showing up, we may want to check with tech support and see what's going on there. We can look up your license and we can do some other things and see what's going on. Maybe something glitched out with the cloud window or something like that, but just be aware of that. So good question. All right, so now that we have done our search, we're going to see 2 different types of results here. One is going to be the green, and then one of them is going to be the pink. The pink are all fonts that it found on the internet that I don't have on my local PC. The green ones are ones that I do have on my local PC that are close to this font. So it looks like I do actually have a monotype cursiva that is actually fairly close. But it looks like this one is the monotype cursiva bold. So it looks like I have the regular italic, but I don't have the bold. And that bold actually kind of does look like more closely like the one that we see on the sign. So if I don't have that font, the really good thing is that I can double click on that font right from within the program. And because my browser is set to put things on my second screen, it flings it over there. Now I can pull this over here and I can set monotype I can see the font information here, what type of font it is. I can click on the character set if I want to see the full character set. And then I can also test it. So I want to test out here, find my font. Oh. I can now see and test some larger amounts of text in here if I really want to. Then I can also go to 2 different places that I can purchase this from. So I can purchase it from findmyfonts.com or fontshop.com. So I've got a couple different places where I can purchase this font. So let's close that out. So now there's a couple other things that we want to take a look at. Now it's more specifically in this particular image. I'm going to go back here and we're going to clear everything out just by using this little X. We've cleared all the letters. And I want to kind of show you something that's going on with these 2 letters right here. If I click my selection tool and I click on this T, you'll notice that one of the things that happens is that these 2 letters get shoved together because it thinks that there's a connection there. If you ever run into a circumstance where this is an issue, then all you have to do is use this little scissors tool. If I click on the little, it's called the letter splitter tool. If I click on that little scissors, I can then zoom in and I can draw a line in between here. And I'm going to actually delete this first so that I can see the color of the image a little bit better. I'm going to just draw a line right in between here. And what that basically does is now that splits it apart for me. So now when I click on my letter tool, my selection tool, I can click on this one and I can click on this one. And now it registers them separately because I've told the software where the delineation between those 2 letters is. This is going to be really helpful if you have a cursive letter or cursive style font that kind of all blends together. You might have to go in there and start chopping up or cutting and putting pieces and lines and dividers in so that you can differentiate each letter individually. Because if I don't do this, it's not going to match that letter because it needs to look at each letter as an individual piece. It can't do it as a group. So each letter has to be an individual piece. So do be aware of that. Let's take a look at another example here. So this is a pretty easy one. It's pretty straightforward. The image is fairly good quality. We're not struggling with too much here. Let's go to another sample image here, and let's take a look at the de-skewing tool. So here's an image of a sign that obviously was not taken from the correct perspective. Now, ideally, you would probably want to take this picture straight on, but you don't always have that luxury. And so what I'm going to do here is we need to fix the skewing issue that this file has first before we try to match the fonts. Here's what I'll demonstrate. For example, if I click on this D, look at how distorted that D is. And if I go to the S and the E, it's reading the letters okay, but they're all kind of twisted up into the right. So we're obviously not going to get the right font here if we try and search it this way. So we're going to just delete all these. And we're going to deal with this first. So if I go down here, it's the second to last tool. It's called the Change Image Correction and Deformation tool. I'll click on that, and it basically gives me this little grid around as much as I want, just dragging these around. But the real key here is when I hold down my Control key on my keyboard. So I'm holding down Control and left clicking. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up these little dots on each corner, just like this. And I want to get them fairly accurate. So let's be accurate about this here because we want it to be as accurate as possible. So I'm just using my scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out, and I'm just adjusting some of these points here. And this is probably going to look pretty decent here. So I think that's good enough. That's pretty close. I don't think we can get any better than that. All right, so now that we have our selection here, we can go ahead in the top left-hand corner, we can choose to fix perspective, and then we can also enlarge it if we want to. We can also apply a little bit of contrast if this image is really struggling with two different colors. So let's say maybe the desert inn is a light gray and maybe the background is a dark gray or something like that, and we're having problems recognizing the letters when we click on each letter with our selection tool, then we can increase the contrast if we need to help change the relationship between the colors so that the software can determine where that is. And that's essentially how it works. It's very similar to a vectorization tool, is it's dependent on the contrast between the colors for it to determine where the line of the font is. And that's what it's looking for. In this case, I don't really think that's a problem. So we're just gonna say enlarge and fix perspective, and then click the apply button. All right, so now obviously we know that this is not perfect. We're a little bit blurry on this side, but a little bit blurry is not that bad. It's not too big of a deal. We can use letters from over here and from the middle in order to compensate for the fact that this is blurry over here. But considering the way that things looked, we've done a pretty good job at making this look pretty decent. In fact, if I were to try and vectorize this with Flexi, I would probably have a pretty decent try at vectorizing this font if I needed to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my selection tool again. I'm going to click one of the N's. I'm going to click this one because it's a little clear. I'm going to go with the R because that seems to be a fairly unique letter inside this letter set. I'm also going to go with the E, the S, and then I'll throw in the D in there. Again, these are all capitals, so I'm going to hit my caps lock, and I'm just going to go NRESD. I'm going to hit match fonts, and it's going to do a local search first and then find anything on the internet. And so these ones up here, we can kind of see the percentage points. So basically what it's found is that this LHF old black or old block, regular bold, this is probably the closest match. And if we look at this compared to our original letter, this is a pretty much a dead on match. So it's done a really good job at finding this. And of course, it's put the ones in bold, in black here, the ones that it thinks that are the closest representations to that. You can kind of see like this one here is a little bit different where the E's kind of flare out a little bit. So there's a little bit of a difference here, but this one seems to be the best match so far. So that's using the skewing tool inside of Flexi or inside of this Find My Font in order to get the correct font. Let's go and let's open up a new demo file here, and we're gonna kind of show the next kind of feature for it here. So another thing that we have an issue with, again, is going to be text on an arc. Now, obviously, this particular sample image already tells us what the font is, but if we click on these letters, this letter is not going to be recognized by the algorithm because it's rotated. So we can do several different things here. We can either rotate the image like this, and that will allow me to more properly select this letter. Or if we're working with a file like this one right here, where impact on arc is on an arc, we can't select these individual letters like this because they're not going to give us the right perspective. So how do we deal with this? Well, there's got one more tool that we can use in order to get these letters just right. And that is the baseline rotation tool. So this allows us to rotate the image based on the image or based on the letter. And so when I select this, I'm going to zoom in on this letter M because I think this is probably a good letter to start with. I'm going to left click and drag, and I get this little grid that I can use to kind of line up my letter to determine how to straighten it out. Once I let go, the image then rotates to make sure that the M is perfectly level. Now, at this point, I can click on my letter selection tool and I can click on the M. Now, maybe I want to go a little bit higher on my let's try that again one more time. See, I would go maximum. I don't think this is going to be, this is probably not going to be a big of a deal, but we'll leave it at that. Let's try the A next. So I'm going to grab my perspective tool again, and I'll zoom in on this A. And I'm going to go from here over. I'm going to use those lines to kind of help me get this as straight as possible. I don't think it has to be perfect, but pretty close is where you want that to be. I think I could actually do that one more time. It wasn't quite as straight as I would have liked it to be. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now I'm going to select my letter selection tool, click on the A. And let's go over here and let's do the N. We'll do the same thing with the letter N here. Make sure that that is straight as possible. There we go. That looks pretty straight. Letter selection tool, click on the N. So now I can say M-A-N. Those are all lowercase. And it looks like it's actually found based on some of the artifacting in this letter. It looks like it's found some other ones, but we also have impact regular as one of them. In fact, if we look here, we also have impact up here at the top as well. So we've got several that are very, very close. There are just slight variations of the impact text. So we've got lots of different variations there, but this gets us close enough to where it makes doing fonts kind of a breeze. Anytime you're dealing with fonts, usually with a blurry graphic, fonts are some of the hardest things to vectorize sometimes, just mainly because of the detail that's involved with them. And the more blurry the font gets, the more likely it is to cause other issues. And so you want to really try and make sure that we get as clear as possible. And if not, this tool here can really fill in the gaps. So again, let's just do this one more time with a different one. Let's use this brush script here and see what we can do with that one. And let's see, I think we'll go with a right about here. Again, I'm trying to just make sure that this is as even as possible. Let's try that again. I think I just slightly off there. There we go. Let's clear this out. Now this is where we probably want to use our scissors tool to kind of cut out some of the areas here. So I'm going to say, maybe right here, we'll cut this one. The R, let's cut that right there. And maybe we'll cut it right here. Actually, let's cut it right there instead. And let's see what that gets us here. So we got the B, R, H. We'll see how this goes. B, R, H. Now these are going to be a little more tricky to do, mainly because we're going to be trying to find a font that's well, and I didn't think I did that great of a job, but it still looks like it did a really good job of finding this font for me. So I thought that that was going to be kind of messed up, but again, this software is kind of generous in that way. It tries to find as much as it can. So even if this top one is not the one that absolutely does the trick, there's also going to be a ton of other fonts below it that might be very similar, or that would match up really well with that particular font. You can even see there's some variations here of the brush script with some different effects on it as well. So really powerful tool, we think, in order to help you guys in terms of getting you the resources you need to reproduce signs. We know that vectorizing can be a great tool to getting some of these fonts, but one of the things is that I find is that if I can use this tool to find the font instead of just vectorizing a font, my fonts and things will, and my sign reproduction comes out way better than is if I were just to vectorize it. Fonts can be one of the more difficult things, like I said, to vectorize, just because there's so much detail. And if that image is low quality in any kind of way, these letters can very quickly just run off the edge when it comes to their quality and things like that. So if we take a look at one more example here, let's take a look at this big sign here. Now this sign has several different types of fonts on it. I think we are set straight enough on this image. Whoa. Okay, so now see, this is what happens when you set your tolerance way too high. So I'm going to back off my tolerance just a little bit. Let's go just a little bit higher. Okay, it looks like we're getting a connection right there, so we'll deal with that. Looks like, okay, so it looks like we're getting a little connection here. So here's where we kind of have to do some tweaking just a little bit. Go down on the tolerance, maybe zoom in a little bit. Actually, zooming in can help us there. And we're going to actually do a cut line in between this guy. So let's just do that right there. Okay, it looks like we got a little connection right down there. So we're just going to go ahead and grab this guy and zoom in here and cut that off. We don't want that to be joined in there. This might work pretty well for us. So let's just go G-O-E-T-E. With this particular one, we may want to try and do some of our correcting options. Now, because this one also has an outline on it, that's another thing to consider here, is that's one of the reasons why we're getting some of these fonts like this. This one actually has the outline pre-applied on it. This one here is fairly close, but I feel like we would want something with a little bit of a sharper edge. That one's fairly close there, but not quite. So I'm thinking that this one up here might be the closest rendition of that. And then we might want to find a variation that doesn't have the outlines on it. So something close to this, I think, is what we're looking for. We could really go crazy on this if we want to and clear this out and maybe reduce our tolerance a little bit so that it doesn't include that outline. And we can play around with this to kind of see if we can get that just right. There we go. So this is a little bit better here. So we've got here we're picking out the letters, but we're not getting too far into the outline. Let's see if this gives us some different results. Here we go. That actually helped quite a bit, lowering down that that tolerance there so that we don't include the black outline. That actually got us what I think is probably the font that we want right there. It's got the E with a little bit of a slant to it and the lower bottom sticking out here. It's got the really sharp kind of squared off ends over here, and same with the Z. So I think we've got a winner right here in this font here. So you can see, just playing around with them a little bit, this is a really powerful tool. We think you guys will use this a lot. Again, if you have a subscription, this is a free license for you guys to use. We partnered with Find My Font, the makers of this tool, so that anybody who has a subscription gets a free license of Find My Font. Is there any questions on this tool or on Flexi in general? Let me know in the comments here and real quick, and we'll address those. And then while we're waiting for some questions to come in, real quick, just before we, as we start wrapping up here, if you are interested in this kind of content, we do this every Wednesday at 2 p.m. So if you want to join us, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we do the Workflow Wednesday where we just talk Flexi. We try and get as much training out to you guys as possible. If you are interested in one-on-one training, we do offer that. You can contact our customer service or go to our website at thinksai.com. Let me actually just pull that up here. I'll show you guys where you can get information on that. If you guys are interested in training and all kinds of things, go to thinksai.com, go to the support tab, and go to training and events. And there's several different resources that we have available for you guys. We have webinars, and so these are all the free webinars and Flexi events going on here. You can register for these for free. We typically do once a month, one for Flexi and one for en route a month. And then typically the European office also does one for Flexi as well. And then if you want more information on how to access our personal one-on-one training, where it's basically you and me training inside of Flexi or en route, whatever topics you want, you can click here, and that will get you in contact with the customer service, and they can set up those trainings. The cool thing about the trainings is that we do record those sessions. And so if you want to, if you're a new user and you just want a full-blown tutorial on Flexi, we can record those 2-hour sessions or 4-hour sessions, and then you get the recording back and you can play it back as much as you want. So really flexible in the training if that's something you're interested in. Let's see if anybody had any questions here for today. Looks like no questions so far, just the one from earlier. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel if you want to see us pop up live when we do this every Wednesday, or when we output or put up new videos. Every webinar and every Workflow Wednesday that we do gets posted on our YouTube channel. So this is a great place to find YouTube training and articles and all kinds of different videos on how to in Flexi. All right, well, I hope you guys have a great afternoon. Enjoyed having you guys here. Go in there, use Find My Font. You'll find it's a joy to use and it's super easy. Enjoy it. Have a great week.